Hello, and welcome to Movies We Dig, the podcast about film, antiquity, and everything in between. I'm Colin McCormick.
I'm Elijah Fleming.
And I'm Christy Vogler.
And today we're talking about Spartacus, Gods of the Arena, a 2011 Starz television miniseries and prequel to their other series, Spartacus, Blood and Sand. And also joining us today in the arena is super special guest Liv Albert, host of the podcast Let's Talk About Myths Baby, and author of Greek Mythology, Gods, Goddesses, and Heroes Handbook, as well as the cocktail recipe book, our personal favorite, Nectar of the Gods. Welcome, Liz. It's great to have you back on the show.
Yay!
Thank you for having me.
Well, it's always great when we get people more famous than us on the show. So that's really what we're most excited about.
Isn't that everyone?
I'm pretty sure that's everyone else, Colin.
Well, yeah, it's a great, being at the bottom is a great place to start. So we'll start with our guest, Liv. What is your experience with Spartacus? Either blood, I'm going to get this confused, Gods of the Arena or Blood and Sand. I almost said Blood and Arena or Gods and Sand. You could just add words, really. What's your experience with the show, and did you dig it?
Well, my experience with the show, I have seen this particular season of Spartacus because I do just call it the Gannicus season. I have seen it a comfortable 4 times all the way through. It is how I became friends with my fellow podcasters, another group in this antiquity world, Ancient History Fangirl, when they just decided to that this was the first thing we were going to do as friends, is watch the first episode of this, which, if you recall what the first episode of this is, is it the best way to make new friends? Not totally sure, but it worked. And we joke about it to this day. So no, I absolutely love this series, way too much. Our group chat is called the Gan Club, with a picture of Gannicus holding bottles. So I'm not going to pretend I don't have good experience and perhaps problematic love of this particular season. I have a lot of experience with it.
Excellent.
Oh, dear.
Oh, and yes, I guess the answer is I definitely dig it, to clarify.
Yeah, we just need that for legal, they need to hear those words.
Yeah.
Right?
No, I do.
Otherwise, it's not admissible otherwise.
How about you,
Christy?
Colin? Well, no, I think Colin should go first because, Eli and I have already talked a little bit about our
so
personal
this
histories.
is my first time talking with everybody about this show. I've seen the first season, and this was the first time I watched this miniseries. I went through a whole roller coaster because at first I think I started out definitely not digging it, and then by the end I kind of was having a reckoning of maybe do I just need to get over myself? Is the problem me? Am I just approaching at this wrong? And so it sent me down this whole introspective kind of roller coaster of just trying to figure out maybe I'm just viewing this wrong. I need to just change my mind frame and maybe I'll dig it more. I never quite got there by the end, but I would say mixed, partially excavated from me.
All right.
How about you two?
Raj?
Yeah, I think partially excavated is a good way to describe it, because I think there's so many problems that just make me cringe watching this whole thing, but also parts of it are really entertaining, and I can't escape that as the audience. I'm just oh, this is really fun. Oh, what's gonna happen? But at the same time, I'm why is this happening? So yeah, a partially excavated dig is a good descriptor.
I think I am very on board with this season.
I'm not alone. Thank you.
I dug it. Once I became desensitized to naked bodies and blood spatter once again,
You gotta get
enjoy
there.
some of the other aspects. I felt honestly the prequel was an improvement on season 1. Especially in the representation of some of the female characters. So I'm sure we'll get into that. But there's still problems. For sure, we will tear apart the problems. But I'm also now sad to realize that Gannicus might not come back, because my whole thing was Gannicus survives and gets freedom and he could be a complicated conflict
I assumed
thing.
this show was inevitably just ending towards Gannicus's tragic and heroic sacrifice or something, because he's obviously not a part of the first season. He's this conspicuous absence. But no, yeah, he walks.
And historically, a lot of people that joined Spartacus in the slave revolts were freed people too, like those of former slave status. So I'm like, oh, this is setting up for Gannicus to show up and have some like conflict with Oenomaus because he finally comes clean about what happens with Melita. And I'm like, oh, I want it. And now I'm sad.
Well, have you talked about the background of the production at all?
We hinted at it a little bit
Yeah.
in the first episode, but I think that's really important to talk about for the season because this season was supposed to just be
like a flashback.
Flashback episode of season 2. And the problem with Spartacus's lead actor from season 1, Andy Whitfield, unfortunately was diagnosed with cancer. And I thought it was really noble that the show was like, okay, we want to give him some time to get treatment and hopefully recover. And apparently there was this conversation with John Hannah, who plays Quintus Batiatus. And he's like, dude, I really liked doing this show and I'd love to come back and do more. They're like, all right, why don't we make, a prequel season with it?
He gets to film 3-way scenes with Lucy Lawless and just basically motorboat naked women pouring wine down themselves. So
he's come a long way from Jonathan of the Mummy.
I literally out loud, I just went like, Jonathan. No.
It's impossible not to think of Jonathan when you're watching that.
Yeah,
yes.
the whole time.
This show is definitely going to recolor my viewing experience of 4 Weddings and a Funeral for sure as well.
Oh gosh. See, but in my mind, it works really well if you're thinking of the Jonathan universe, because he's like, this is what Jonathan fantasizes happens to him as he's traversing the ancient Mediterranean world.
That is true.
This is his grand tour.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes. Yes.
Ela, how about you?
Man, I don't know, you guys. I do think that, I liked I don't know. I feel exhausted by this. It's
Elijah
so much.
is decidedly our anchor, but in a good way. Like, she keeps us grounded and to be trying to remember, it's was this good?
I don't know, when you just said the 3-way scene with Lucy Lawless and pouring wine down motorboating boobs, I'm just like, wow, what? I'm just remembering all of the extremely cringeworthy moments. And I think that Crixus spent the entire season with his mouth open. I feel like he had the same dumb look in every single scene.
I wondered at a certain point where after you get a couple, one of the things the show really loves to do is cross-cut scenes of graphic, bloody violence with scenes of sex and erotica and things like that. And I'm like, is this show training me in a Pavlovian way to be aroused by violence?
Yes.
And now when I see blood, am I gonna think of orgies and stuff like that?
Yes, that is literally, I think that is what continues to be the most problematic part of the show, is that we can't just have fun sex scenes, right? Sure, why not do that? It's it must be intercut with very violent moments, and climax is equated with death.
Yeah.
It's very French.
But it's also very Roman too, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, they have the petite mort is it's just a euphemism for an orgasm.
Yeah, and shoot, I found that to be one of the most problematic aspects because one of the first sex scenes, which is just when Lucretia and Gaia get some opium going, they're having a good night, and we were watching her husband, right? Oh, look at what Lucretia's doing over here, and her husband's getting beat to a bloody pulp. Also, she kills his father at the end of the season.
Yeah, but he kind of sucked, so.
He did kind of suck.
Okay. We'll come back to that, but yeah.
See, this is the thing that I really enjoy about the show, and maybe it's that I also just really love problematic shit. I really do. I won't pretend otherwise. But I think that it is, obviously it's intentional, but I think that it's intentional and done well in what I feel like they're trying to do, which is, you kind of hinted at it, Christy, but it is Rome. It feels to me like they're trying to do a swords and sandals thing where, and maybe this is giving too much credit and not maybe specifically as much about the sex versus violence direct juxtaposition, but I think broadly what they're trying to do is make a swords and sandals show that doesn't glamorize the ancient world in the way that something like 300 or Troy does, and instead is it was both like this really horny place and this really horrible place. And I feel like it's impactful that these scenes are juxtaposed like that, because I think so often the ancient world is kind of shown in this sort of rose-tinted light, as if things weren't awful. And so if you are going to make a show about people who are inherently enslaved and ultimately forced to do barbaric things to each other, like, I think that putting it next to because yes, it's about the sex, but what it's about is the wealth of the people who own the other people, right? It's about how they are rich and they can do whatever they want and nothing matters, and they have absolutely no sympathy for the people they enslave. They just don't care. It's all awful. And I think that it's like it really makes an impact to be like, okay, these people are having wild sex while these other people are dying. And maybe, the Badiatus bit is like a little bit less because obviously like he is the bad guy still.
Yeah.
But I also think it's really interesting the way that they address the bad guys, quote unquote, right? Like the owners of the Ludus, like they, you like them and you hate them simultaneously. Like you love Badiatus, and I'm going to say Lucy Lawless because her name is escaping me in this moment.
Lucretia.
Lucretia, thank you. I mean, it's basically Lucy Lawless, let's be honest.
Yeah.
But like, you love them and then also think they're horrible. And I think that's really impactful. Like, that's what I really like about it, is that like there's no really good characters. Everyone's awful in all of these different ways. And it's just this like wild look at the ancient world. And yeah, I don't know, that I really enjoy those bits, and like they are problematic. I won't pretend they're not, but I think they work.
No, I think I agree. I like one of the parts that I do actually find really interesting is the treatment of enslaved people who live in this extremely controlled world where they are just property, and the realities of that, and like how, some gladiators who are slaves might find meaning in their work. But I think it was Oenomaus and Melita were having a conversation. He says, like, this was my calling. I found so much love in being a gladiator. And she's like, yeah, I don't have that. I am a house slave and I'm a woman. I am at the mercy of everybody else who like owns me. And that even that difference in between two different slaves' lives, I think it was really, that part I think is an impactful. Yeah, I like that you use that word.
I was just going to say one of my favorite quotes from Melita was, she says at one point, I think after she'd been forced to have sex with Gannicus, she's talking to Oenomaus and says, some acts cannot be avoided when stripped of choice. And I felt like that was just a perfect line to kind of sum up the lives of people, of like, you still have the very real emotional concerns of like, this feels like a betrayal to my husband, but I was absent any real choice of it. How do I live with that?
And as the sort of the framing device of the whole show is the scene at the end of season 1 where Badiatus and Lucretia are getting killed. And I'm like, oh, right. This whole season is basically setting up like that they have created such a toxic house that it would lead to the largest slave revolt in Roman history, right? That they sort of have driven everyone to this point that there would be a sort of revolt on such a massive scale. Yeah,
this is set 5 years, apparently.
It is. I mean, it's kind of because I guess like everybody's sort of waiting for Spartacus to show up, but for the gladiators, kind of like you were saying about Oenomaus in that conversation, like most of them seem really into the idea. Like Asher in particular, he's like really sold on the idea of becoming a famous gladiator. Like they're very, pro gladiator dumb and joining the Brotherhood and all that kind of stuff. Which at a certain point made me wonder. I'm like, is there a deep irony in like a Spartacus show that's like pro slavery?
But I think that I mean, maybe less this season. Like sometimes I conflate season 1 and this because I don't watch the ones after with the new Spartacus because he's boring. But like, but I think that it's like they address the way, it's not so much, I think, the pro slavery so much as it is looking at how people adapt when they are forced into these situations. I don't think Asher is a great example because I think Asher is like, I mean, one of the most I think that I think he's a good example actually in that he is looking at what he can get and just like going to make it work for himself. He's not remotely a likable character, but I think that he is a good example of that type. Like, I think what they do fairly well is look at all the different ways that certain types of people handle the situation that they're put into. And like, I think this season's interesting because it shows Crixus at his beginning point, because then you have the comparison to Crixus in season 1 where he's that, right? He loves it. And then in this, we get sort of how he got to that point. And I mean, it's a lot of like, it's like Stockholm syndrome type stuff and like all these different things where your brain can like just adapt to horrors that it is being forced into. And so I think it is interesting to look at that because, season 1 does it well where it's, the comparison, because obviously Spartacus is coming in with all of his trauma and like bringing the trauma out in more people. And it's like a little bit less so in Gannicus's season, I will call it that. But I also think at the same time, like this season was very intentionally meant to be like not lighthearted, but comparatively lighthearted, in an interesting way, and maybe try to like amp up that different side of it before they come back with the Spartacus of it all.
Yeah. No, I'm thinking also about like the last kind of, or one of the last scenes where Gannicus like gets his freedom and he's like, he wins the Primus and he gets his freedom and they like actually let him go, and he leaves just like this crowd of men behind him and the gates like close them in, and it was a really like stark separation in between this one person who gets to leave and all of these other people who all think that might happen to them, and like how likely is that really? He didn't even want to free Gannicus at that point. He was kind of like coerced into it. But it's that weird hope of like, oh, that's also going to be me, or I'm also going to like win that lottery ticket, right? And I think so heartbreaking.
Yeah. It's a weird case of tokenism almost, right? Yes. Like that's what keeps so many people aspired, because I think they get to be the one, like Gannicus. Yes. And like that was just it. It's like I'm so used to, with these 2 seasons, of like the daily grind, that even if you're like winning, how much do you have to win before you get to that point? It keeps you going, right? Like otherwise, I think that was my question too of, the first season seemed so cruel in so many ways, but if you step back and think about it, it's like, what finally drives people enough to be like, I'm not going to live this way. I'm going to risk rebelling, which could result in the life of not just my life, but everyone in this household of slave status. Like what drives you to that point to make that decision? And I think that's why I'm so torn about this series, because it comes back to that question of, I love that this is the first series we've talked about that's really from the slave's perspective in the ancient world. Like I can't think of any other series that's really tackled that.
But at the same time, it doesn't even happen. Like everyone thinks of Spartacus, they think of the military leader. They spent 2 seasons, or a season and a half at least, thinking about Spartacus as the slave.
Mm-hmm.
And
go ahead. Well, I was going to say, if I'm like to be the naysayer, like I wonder if part of that is just because the thing that this show really loves more than anything else is gladiator fights. And part of the sort of the reluctance to get into sort of the post-rebellion thing is it's just like, well, just more gladiator stuff. Like, because my kind of thesis on what this show is, in a way, because at first I was thinking like, well, this is a very weird bit of like historical reception. And I'm like, you know what? It's actually not historical reception. It's basically like WWE kayfabe, like that mindset and mentality, the kind of heightened reality and the suspension of disbelief, the sort of excess of it all, right? The way the crowd, like it is, seemed like if anything is being hearkened to in any of those arena scenes, it's like a wrestling match.
Oh yeah.
And then it's that, but filtered through a 300 lens.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes literally, because it has the same like patina and aesthetic. And
I made a note that like when the final fight, which I actually thought was really cool.
I enjoyed the final fight. Yeah.
When they like pour the oil on the ground and have a ring of fire, I'm like, that seems ridiculous, but I have been to an University of Iowa wrestling match and they have straight up pyrotechnics indoors. Like I felt the heat from the flames. And I'm like, this is a college wrestling match.
And I think it bleeds not just into the fight scenes and the crowd, which is, obviously very like pro wrestling-esque, but even just with the way the narratives play out, that it's so like melodramatic. It's very soapy. It's all betrayals and affairs and scandals and things like that. And everything's dialed up to 11, and like none of it makes any sense. Nobody like behaves rationally or like a normal human being in this show, but like
no, that's not the point.
Yeah, exactly. That's not the point. It is that dial up, and then also it's all dressed in like the language of a Renaissance fair. And I want to talk about the way people talk in this show, but I don't know if you talked about it on last week. But
we didn't spend a whole lot of time on it, but I feel like I noticed it even more in the prequel. That I was just like, why are you saying it that way?
I think I figured it out. Like the trick is you have to like take a normal sentence. You have to use the fanciest word you can for a thing, and you have to strip it of all articles and possessive pronouns. So you wouldn't say like, could you please hand me your keys? You would say like, put keys in hand. That's like how you would say a thing like that. And so it's all dressed up like that. And then also with the just vulgarity dialed up to 11, right? You never would say, you'd like present ass for ramming or something like that.
Yeah.
That is,
but I mean,
that's such an accurate line. Sorry.
Yeah, I feel like that borrows from graffiti too, though, right? Like, which gladiators in Pompeii, they were being written about in that manner, sort of.
Yeah, but well, it's just that like that they cloak it in like kind of faux Shakespeare.
Oh, fair.
Well, see, I wish I'd looked into this before, but I didn't think about it until now. But like, I read that they were trying to do something that could sound vaguely like Latin. Like obviously not, but like
what I was thinking, because they like move a lot of the nouns like toward the beginning of their sentences, and so I feel like they do use more prepositions, and I was like, are they trying to make this sound like a weird Latin sentence?
Yeah, and I think subject, that's my favorite.
Yeah, well, I kind of see that, and as weird as it is, I'm like, it sounds like somebody is like literally translating a Latin sentence, like word for word. Mm-hmm. And like, well, all right, I guess it like gets stuck in my head. Like I think about it, and it's like I hear it in normal words, and I kind of don't like it.
Is it mostly just John Hannah doing it too? Like he's what comes
Lucy
to mind.
Lawless does it a lot too.
They all do it.
They all do it, but that's John Hannah is good.
Even the gladiators are like really kind of poetic in their framing of things. Yes. They have very like flowery language for very crass things.
Yes.
I wonder if I can find some quotes.
Yeah, I do remember like one turn of phrase that I really liked, and I'll have to look it up again because it was like a labor that not even Hercules could perform, and I'm like, oh, I like that.
Yeah. No, they have some good ones, I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it was intentional. Like, I mean, I don't know. It is a little annoying. I agree. But I do appreciate that it was like an intentional attempt at sounding like Latin. Like, I think what I like about this show just is mostly in comparison to all the other reception that I've ever encountered. In that I think that, like, I'm not saying that they necessarily, ended up with something more accurate, but I think that they tried harder at accuracy than almost anything I've ever watched. Mm-hmm. Certainly than the big stuff that's out there. Like you can tell that they wanted it to be accurate, and I appreciate that.
Yeah. I'm thinking about Asher and his friend Dagon, yeah, and how they like they never say the word Latin, I think, but he's like, you like your mouth doesn't form our words, says something like that. And I think that was really funny because they don't like name the language. He's just like, he can't understand you.
Yeah, this Gannicus line. I'm sorry, I'm just copy pasting quotes from the show into the chat while Eli's trying to make a point.
I desire blood and cries of our enemy.
To return to shackle and lash. That sounds like a hipster bar, but Have you ever done the hipster name generator thing? But there's like a website that's like your hipster business name generator, and it's just like two nouns, and you just choose like what kind of fancy ampersand you want between them. So it'll be like goose and plow, or like anvil and thresher, and things like that. It's just like two.
Oh my
like,
god,
vague
going
words.
to this now.
Yes. Oh, it's a lot of fun. I've named many a D&D bar after this.
There you go. There you go.
Spools and dinner. Cider and bread. Empress and egg. That's my favorite. That's going to be my brunch place.
That's
Empress
got
and the
Zeus
egg.
connotations to it for me, and like Lita and the Swan kind of connotations. I don't know. She wasn't an empress, but like that's where I went.
I feel like I've done mimosas at Empress and Egg. That sounds
Right?
like a place.
Yeah.
Where were we?
All right. I kind of want to talk about Gannicus.
Please.
Just because I think I went really back and forth on like, is he my favorite character? Because he has this cynicism about him, and you know, he's such a good gladiator, but he really doesn't care. He really doesn't try that hard. He's like drunk the night before big fights, and you know, they ask him like, whose honor are you fighting for? And he's like, the House of Spartacus. And he's like, yeah, I can tell that you don't mean that. And I really appreciated that as somebody. It felt very realistic of just like, yeah, I'm good at this, but man, I don't really care. And you know, it's this deep impending doom that I feel like he's sort of staring into, like looking off the cliff and kind of like slipping around, like, am I just gonna jump? That it was a much more three-dimensional character than just, you know, another Crixus.
Yeah, I think Gannicus is like an interesting like foil to Spartacus, because he's so intentionally meant to be like the opposite, right?
Yes.
Like, because we had this like very, very dark and dreary season 1, and then Gannicus comes in to be like comic relief in such real ways, especially in that first episode. Like, is it the first one where there's this, the scene of him like drinking on the edge of the cliff and he's singing?
Yeah.
And like, I just think they were really trying something there. And I also too like to bring it back to what we were talking about earlier about like the like kind of excess of gladiators and how it's set in that way. Like, I do wonder what it would have been like if Andy Whitfield hadn't gotten cancer, like for a whole host of reasons, because frankly the guy who replaces him is just not good, but also like it, like I wonder what you know, like they would like you guys were saying at the beginning, like this was supposed to be one flashback episode to introduce Gannicus, but instead we get this whole season. And so it's like, were they kind of thrust into a lot of extra gladiator scenes that maybe that wasn't the intention? But like, what are you going to do if you're doing a prequel whole series that's 5 years before, when literally all there is gladiators, chronologically speaking, you know? And so I think that's interesting as well. And like, was it kind of forced to become a bit more bloody and gory and wouldn't necessarily have been? I don't know. I think about I talk with my ancient history fangirlfriends a lot about like everything to do with those 2 seasons, but specifically like what it would have been like if Andy Whitfield had been okay, because also he's so good at at being Spartacus, and I just like, I know we're not talking about that season, but he's so good in that season.
The other part I liked about that first episode, because I think that's the one where Batiatus brings Gannicus to the market to be like, oh my god, like, you know, just an impromptu exhibition. He bragged, it's like, oh my guy's so good, I can like beat him blindfold. And here's Gannicus, and he has to do it, and he kind of just like, you can tell he just has someone's like, it, I'll do it, and I'll either win or I'll die. So like, here it is. And
I actually really liked that scene. I thought it was really fun and different, and also the end was really gory, and I like jumped. So yeah, I guess entertaining for sure.
Well, and his whole personality too, just to emphasize what you're saying, Chrissy, like that's his, like that first scene, like that's his whole personality is like, I'm gonna do it because I have no other choice, so like I'm gonna give it my all, and either I fucking win or I die. And it's like, you know, that's it. I don't know if I can swear. I'm sorry if I can't.
Yeah.
And I already
yes.
did.
Oh, you can.
Okay.
Great. That's why I led the charge there.
Perfect. Yeah, I thought you did, and then I questioned myself.
Christy can swear, but nobody else.
Yeah, it's only Christy.
Only I'm allowed.
Sometimes I think, like, did I, you know, only hear in my head that somebody swore because I want to swear all the time, or did the other person actually swear? But yeah, like, and I think that's interesting about his character, that is like his whole mentality is like, my life is like nothing, so I'm just gonna try and see how it goes.
And it kind of fits into, I felt this season was an even kind of a clearer metaphor of thinking about the Ludus as like a professional team of gladiators in the way we think of professional teams now, because like at later, he explains to Oenomaus is like, oh yeah, he snorts every time he's about to charge or something like that. So like he had a clear idea of how he was going to beat this guy. It wasn't dumb luck, and it shows just kind of how skilled Gannicus is. But to me, he's kind of the athlete who grew up always being like naturally athletic. It wasn't something you had to try really hard for. And so, that's like, you get this idea then it's like, that's all you are going to be because you were born for it. And so I thought him choosing to embrace leaving the Ludus, because you could like, there would be gladiators who would be manumitted, but they would choose to return for like coin or something like that, because like that is their life. And I thought it was kind of interesting in the end that Gannicus was going to be like, no, I think I am actually done with this. I know I'm good at this, but that's all I kind of know about myself. So also don't want to explain to my best friend what happened. So just peacing out.
Yeah. That never comes up in the first season, right? That Oenomaus had a wife who died.
Well, that is all is mentioned by Oenomaus. Although the way she died with wine, I thought it was really interesting because Oenomaus made it a point after that. Like he no longer drinks wine, right? Yeah. He decides just to in that instance with Spartacus. And I'm like, what I think that's going to end up being one of my questions. Like, do you guys think this accidental prequel was a prequel we needed? Because that was something that we ask a lot about prequels. And I'm like, I feel like this one did such a good job of tying up storylines that didn't have to be storylines. They were just brief mentions in season 1. And that was one of them.
No, I agree.
Yeah. It is very much like victim of necessity, but for the sort of hand it was dealt, it could have been a lot. It could have been a lot worse. But Christy, as you were talking, you got me thinking, like, now I'm very kind of curious to know, like, what does Gannicus do with his freedom? Because like he's driven by this, kind of almost suicidal sort of approach to every, it's very 1 minute at a time. That's how he sort of goes through life. And then we know very little about him. Like he's a Gaul, I think that's all we get. And so like, we don't know his life before.
He's Celtic. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, yeah, like what does a guy like that do with freedom?
Join the Spartacus rebellion in season 3.
That's what I thought would happen. That made sense to me. He starts a wine bar. He goes hipster and starts a wine bar.
After what happened to Melita?
Well, he never stopped.
Honeyed wine, no Molson wine.
Yeah, there you go.
He reminds me of like, I only just thought of this because there's a new version of the movie out. But if anyone has ever seen 1989 cult classic Swayze film Roadhouse, where Swayze is this like basically traveling rock star bouncer in like all the most extreme bars in the world, and he basically just kicks the crap out of drunk bartenders across the country. But I feel like Gannicus would do like would he be like would it be like Titus Pullo in season 2 of Rome, where he like just becomes a hired thug?
I feel like he may not do anything violent, because I feel like this is it feels very like old school ancient literature that like Gannicus is maybe like not quite as deserving or doesn't really want his freedom because he, has this kind of suicidal thing going on and doesn't really think so much about the future. But there are other gladiators that we know like would maybe really do something with their freedom that are really, really after that. And Gannicus is the one who gets it, the one who doesn't maybe necessarily even want it. And so I think that maybe he would completely cut it off and like not do anything violent and just completely change that part of his life.
Okay, I've got something in my head canon now.
Okay.
Melita's name means bee.
Yes.
So he becomes an apiary.
Oh.
We're coming back to the honeyed wine is the thing.
He doesn't have to turn it into wine.
But I realize you saying that I was going to say this anyway. Oh, I just realized you're wearing my shirt. Thank you. It was not on camera.
Shirt. I love this shirt. I've had it for like over a year now.
I was a surprise. I know so we like it's never occurred to me. But just talking about how Melita died, like and Oenomaus's name. Like, do you think that somebody learned a little bit of ancient Greek and they were like, we could do something with this?
I don't know, but it's kind of sad.
It is. Yeah. And then the honeyed wine bit, if her name is B, it's like,
I know.
Well, there's so much happening there.
Yeah.
See, this show is ridiculous and has depth, and that's why I like it.
Yeah. So one of the other things that so we have the introduction of quite a few characters, and this is me being like, I'm really glad this prequel exists. Unlike most prequels, I like this one because we get to meet Gaia, and I love Gaia
because Gaia's amazing.
Just your resident professional hedonist.
Yes. And I find her relationship with Lucretia unlike the relationship between Lucretia and Alithia in season 1, where like that one felt like the toxic masculine interpretation of female friendship of like no women are actually friends with each other. They're always sniping at each other. And then they totally changed that with Gaia. It's like Gaia is literally, yes, she is self-involved in some ways, but she really cares about Lucretia and she wants to see Lucretia be happy. And, you know, she does what she can with that, even if they don't always agree on the means. And I thought that was like such a better relationship between women. And because they also made it intentionally sexual, like they made it a sapphic love story. I saw so many YouTube music videos of Lucretia and Gaia. It's like, what was my favorite line that she said? I wrote it down. I would not deny myself such pleasures if presented again, yet necessity shift attention to cock, and a golden one at that. And I'm like, that is Gaia, and I love her. Yeah. But because if I felt like, even though I found the relationship between Lucretia and Ilithia so problematic, I kind of understood it more based on the trauma Lucretia has with her friendship with Gaia, because Ilithia almost makes the relationship sexual. She makes it overly
friendly, like sticky friendly.
And so you can see like Lucretia going back and forth of like, do I want this friendship to be like what I had with Gaia? And then she just gets really burned by Ilithia to the point that like she's so bitter, she just kind of goes down the dark path with her. And I thought that like what was such a problematic relationship between the women in season 1 kind of was redeemed with this relationship shown in the prequel season.
Yeah, no, I agree. And can I just nerd out for a second? Because this just occurred to me. And again, I've seen both of the first and second season so many times. But just talking about depth and these names, like I've always noticed what Ilithia's name like sounds like, but now I'm realizing how, because she like stabs Lucy Lawless in the like pregnant belly, right? And so she's named for the goddess of childbirth.
Yes. It also is how you say you're that's also how you say you're single in modern Greek. You say you're free. Yeah. I learned that while I was studying abroad. I'm like, yeah, that's how you say you're single. You're free. You're Ilithia.
Well, and I guess it is, like the Ilithia is more like the it's not a very different spelling from the goddess of childbirth. But the sound is there in my head, and
Well, and I don't actually. Do we know? Well, so anyway, Lucretia, if we're going to play the name game, because Lucretia is sort of famously the paragon of Roman virtue in Roman history. That she's the chaste, loyal, dutiful wife in Roman fable, basically. So I wonder if that's a deliberate choice also for this character. Or I was like, do we actually know what Batiatus's wife's name was? Probably not, but I don't know.
It was not named in the sources I looked at last week. We do know that Batiatus was the name of the house that Spartacus
came out
in. So that was accurate. And I liked that this season gave us very much Livia Drusilla vibes too. When she reveals at the end, it's like, at first I was just poisoning you so that you would leave.
Yeah.
But you didn't stay away. So now
it was a very like don't touch the figs moment.
Yes. Yeah. No, on the topic of Gaia, I think her death was like was a big surprise to me. Like I was like, he didn't kill her, did he? Oh my God, he killed her. And I think
I have a lot of questions about Tullius too.
Yeah. But I think it was really, really like meaningful, and it was a really big turning point of like, you know, how absolutely obsessed with revenge they become. And I did think about Lucretia's like further female friendships that we know from season 1, and just how like, yeah, traumatic this had to have been. And yeah, you probably don't want to get closer to someone else for fear of having them, you know, ripped away. So yeah, I do think Gaia's death was one of my favorite moments of this show, just because it was so surprising and so meaningful.
Yeah. I like, that was also one of the problematic moments I found too, because again, I really appreciated the kind of queer relationships that they're trying to show in this series. Whether or not that's accurate, that's a whole nother thing. But here we are once again, is like the queer relationship most pronounced in the show results in one of them dying traumatically.
Sure.
Or both of them in the case of season 1 with Barca and...
Well, Barca also loses his partner in this one too. And
Barca dies first. And Barca...
in this season,
I feel so bad for Barca. They did Barca dirty so many times.
And
he's
when
so
at the very
nice.
at the very end, when he's like, I'm gonna join you soon, when Gannicus leaves, like, we know you don't. You get killed.
And the worst part is, like, this is how they tied it in so well together, is like that, but that's what they said happened, right? Is that Barca was freed and he just left.
This is now I'm getting like, is this show like actually an adaptation of Animal Farm, where these are like the boxers and the horses, the animals are getting like worked to death and disappeared off the farm to serve the system? But
I think you're definitely thinking too hard about this, Colin.
Yeah.
That might be accurate for season 1, though. I don't know as much for this season, but these two go together quite a bit. So what else? Gosh, I was trying to write down like all of the storylines that seemed to come out. I liked that. I hated Crixus season 1, and
well, he's kind of a heel, right? That's his.
He's a heel. His idea of romancing women was not great.
His hair makes him look like a Proud Boy, and
it's so bad. I
prefer
that was my comment. That was my comment from season 1. Is like, why is he the most desired one out of the Ludus? Supposedly, I doubt it. And then the prequel's like, let us explain.
I watched the prequel first because when Jen and Jenny like wanted to introduce me to the show, they were like, okay, well, chronologically, like this comes first. We're going to start with it. And so I often have trouble like trying to figure out like what would it would have been like if you were actually watching that as like a later prequel. But I do think Crixus is like a really impactful difference between the prequel and season 1. Cause like, yeah, he's Proud Boy Crixus in season 1. He's really difficult to deal with. And then the prequel comes in and you're kind of like, oh, like, actually, I guess I can see how this happened. Like, it's, I see it. And I see how you became this way. And like, what led you to become the like really, really obnoxious Proud Boy of season 1.
Yeah. And he does not close his mouth. I swear to God, every scene, he's just like, he has this look on his face. I like could not get past it. I was like, why are you looking like that?
Oh gosh. And yeah, I also liked how we get the background story of, like, I thought Crixus was given more depth. His relationship with Lucretia is given more depth. And I think it also did a good job of explaining like how she eventually just becomes so possessive of him. Because again, I think she's seeking the relationship she had with Gaia.
And she starts out at the very beginning where she's like, I would never, bed a slave or whatever it is she says.
Yeah.
And then, her art, because really if this season's anything, it's the sort of villain origin story for Lucretia and Batiatus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I will say, like, my impression of Batiatus changed in no way. Like, daddy issues, I'm like, I presumed already.
Remarkably consistent.
He's just more fun in the prequel. But yeah, like, nothing about him changes, but you're just kind of like, oh, you are ridiculous in an enjoyable kind of way.
Yeah. I will say, like, I thought it was fun that they played up the fact that, like, him and Salonius were friends, and then you get to see the start of the rivalry. I thought that was really smart.
That was fun.
I am, like, I think just required to point out that the budget in the prequel was considerably bigger, and Salonius, thank you for reminding me of his real name, because I do call him Curls. And his curls
not ear thing.
I'm incapable of calling him anything but Curls. His hair in the prequel is so good. It is.
I was like, man, the wig work on this guy, and the fact that he kind of looks like Michael Bolton. But
I can see that.
I see that.
Yeah, actually, for a second, I thought it was Michael Bolton. I'm like, man, they got Michael Bolton for this.
And look at those curls.
Yeah.
I actually just, thank you for saying that name. I just had like frantically texted Jen and been like, what is Curls' real name? Because I didn't want to
Craig Walsh Wrightson is the actor. Who spends all of his, he spends all of his winnings from the games on product.
Yes,
and
naturally.
And create, what are they called?
Cultists. Cultists.
But then 5 years later, he's really not doing well because his curls in season 1 they're just not the same. They're not the same.
It's the drought. It's that drought.
Yes. Yep.
He is just not doing anything for him. I don't know how curls actually work. My hair is so straight.
Well, curls like that those are rolled every day.
I was going to say,
right?
those are not real. So it's irrelevant.
I mean, also to get them in such perfect rows.
Yeah. Not a natural
and also
look.
to be so blonde at that age. Not a touch of gray. We should get a whole prequel series just on his hair.
Yes. And the poor slave who
I kind of wish somebody would say
do
something, because that seems like the kind of thing like somebody would comment on. This is how you know you're in a sort of kayfabe suspended reality situation, because nobody says anything about a guy who looks like that.
Well, also like the wigs in this season are amazing. Like the obvious choices of wigs, like the fact that Gaia and Lucretia just are both like, let's mix it up. Like, you know, and I like that it's just sort of, I mean, I know it's also, I assume, because again, my knowledge is very Greek and not Roman at all, but like I imagine it's fairly based in reality of the volume of like wigs that a wealthier woman would have. But I like the idea that it's just like changing it up. Just what do I feel like today?
What matches my dress?
Yeah. Oh my god, the dresses! I've like done so much Googling trying to find any kind of cosplay related dress, anything like these, particularly from this season when the budget is good. I want one so bad.
Yeah,
I will say it's still actually I thought these costumes were better because the last ones were so plunging neckline all the time.
Yes.
What was it? Bosoms. Something bosoms.
Heaving bosoms?
Heaving bosoms everywhere.
A lot of heaving bosoms. Absolutely.
Well, this actually kind of leads me to a question. I don't know if you talked about this last week, or last episode or whatever it was, but the way the show very much wears its influences very upfront. I think it's super apparent in the first season, which is like, we're just doing 300 again, right? Like they're dressed like 300. The camera effects, the sort of digital veneer that's put over everything,
the slow motion,
the way they do that, like it will be slow motion and then rapid cuts or rapid camera jumps. That's all like, from the 300 sort of
the blood hitting the screen too.
Yes.
The splatters,
excessive blood spatter. But because I also thought about this one is like when I said that this isn't a sort of work of historical reception, it's really just receiving popular media about Rome. And this is like super apparent where you do have heavy doses of 300, which I guess was the most recently popular and biggest sort of sword and sandal adjacent thing. And then to a lesser extent, Gladiator.
And Clash of the Titans would have been like the year before, I think, which is fairly big.
Yeah, the Gladiator and 300. I'm trying to think, but like it feels very right. It's a product of the Rome of Hollywood and popular media, and it looks there, and I think it kind of stops there, which is fine. That's not a dig against it or anything, but
it's like I watch it, and I know this is what I call it the Zack Snyder aesthetic because
yeah.
I mean he carried it through into a lot of his like superhero movies and stuff.
Have any of you seen, was it Rebel Moon yet, or
No,
No.
not
Outlaw
yet.
Moon, whatever it's called?
Rebel Moon. Yeah, it's Rebel Moon.
My office mate and I were just talking about this the other day and how we're probably never going to watch it.
I don't seek out a lot of Zack Snyder, I have to say. He's
Yeah.
not proven himself to be worth that.
No.
No.
And it's like that's just what's hard about this series, I think sometimes is like, is this supposed to be artsy? And sometimes it is kind of artsy. And I like some of the transitions that fade from one scene to another and they keep like a person in focus or something like that. Some of those are kind of cool. But like the way like blood spatter and the like overt violence is, I think I said this at the beginning, is like once I become desensitized to those things they're beating me over the head with, there are parts of the show I can just enjoy. But, you know, that's kind of the problem too, right? Like that's the problem with a series about slavery that is hyper violent, is we are then, as the audience, have to be desensitized to it. We have to be okay with it to enjoy the characters, to enjoy the story. And is that a good thing? Like, should this be entertainment for us? So,
I mean, I agree completely, but I also do think that they do a fairly nice job of, when they're doing that, still then immediately reminding you of the horror. Like, because they don't ever step away from the fact that these people live horrific lives. So I like it, definitely you are forced to become desensitized. So that is certainly an issue. But at the same time, like, I feel like, and maybe it's just been a long time since I've watched something like Gladiator, but I feel like something like it does do a little bit of a better job of really emphasizing the horror alongside the gratuitous violence, and the fact that like when they leave and when they're in the arena, certainly, but also when they leave the arena and they're no longer like the star of the violence, like they do always explicitly return home to a very different sort of violence. That's like a good reminder that like often they get to be this sort of different, they get to lead a kind of different life in the arena, but the reality is still waiting for them. And I think that is, yeah, like I think that is an interesting way of doing it. Like it doesn't make it better that we have to become desensitized to their horrific lives, but it is, they don't stray away very far from that reminder.
Yeah, I'd never thought about it that way, but I think you're really right. And I'm, thinking about just like the types of violence, because there's the entertainment violence, like the rock star type of violence. But then there's like people who are never in the arena, like Melita and Diana, the girl who's like horribly mistreated and then makes like the decision to run away and then gets horribly executed. Like, like all of that violence against someone who had never stepped foot in the arena. So yeah, I think that has changed the way that I think about it in a good way.
I think that's often in the arena too, like not always, and I'm going to forget how much is in this season versus the other, but like they are, you know, often the stars in this violence in the arena, but then they also often have to like fight somebody they know and kill somebody they love. And so there is this like really harsh juxtaposition that I think is like more impactful, to use that word again. Like I think it's more impactful with the hyper violence, like the like dramatized and sort of glamorized violence, I think is almost necessary to really then drive home the horror of that violence. Like you have to kind of have both, or else I mean, imagine if it was just the horrific violence of being enslaved without the entertaining violence of the arena. Like that would just be trauma in a show. Like you need to find that in between so that you can then take in the trauma, because otherwise, like nobody could handle it, you know? Like it's an interesting line to walk because it's all f***ed up, but like it's f***ed up in a way that they are very much reminding you like this is a life people led. It was horrifying. Sometimes they found value in it and then sometimes they really did not. Like it's just, it's kind of like a little bit of everything. I don't know.
Yeah. I think that's why I liked Diona's storyline, to speak to that, like the harsh reality of what she suffered in the house as a slave, and her execution being set up. And like, this isn't the first time that Quintus had done this, right? Like making a decision because he's pissed off at someone else at the moment that like completely changes the trajectory of a slave's life. And, you know, she's sitting there hoping, and like, you know, Lucretia's too is like, I know what happened to her. I know it wasn't fair. But like, I also, as a woman, couldn't protect her from that, sadly, even though I, you know, am free and she's not. And they're all just looking at Batiatus, and Batiatus is just pissed off at Salonius in the moment. And he's like, oh, it's a good message to remind people like what will happen to them if they betray me. And so she just becomes a message. And her life's over.
Damage.
Yeah.
They do a good job dehumanizing, like, you know, intentionally in ways that is a reminder of the reality, like dehumanizing these people, like showing the way that like Lucretia and Batiatus are both normal everyday people in ancient Rome, and also these like horrific dehumanizing monsters who own and completely control the fate of real people. Like it is a really interesting juxtaposition of like their crazy sexy times with Gaia and like all that wildness and the drinking and the partying, and then like immediately, you know, you get like the absolute horror of the people that they own.
I still wonder a little bit if this is a thing where the show kind of works against, the show's interests are working against these ideas, because like it is still called Gods of the Arena, and like there's a very heavy emphasis on like the, you know, it's the fight for the cup basically, where it's like, you know, it kind of does become all about like who's going to win the Primus and like be the best gladiator. And the show, I think, like sells itself and markets itself, and people, I suspect a lot of them watch and enjoy it because they just want to see these gnarly gladiator fights. And then in that, it becomes in some ways sort of whatever the critical or more introspective or deeper looks at institutions of oppressment are, to me at least, very much undone by this like fact that we just want a show of like just more gladiator.
I think one of my other favorite moments that really plays with that idea in a successful way is like the second sex party Lucretia throws with, and Gannicus is going to do an exhibition against Tullius, and Oenomaus has to tell him, it's like, yep, just take a few hits and lose. And Gannicus is like, really have to lose to this guy? And Tullius almost kills him. But the reality is like, this guy would be done in a moment. And Tullius is like referring back to, it's like, oh yeah, my military training is coming back to me, as if he truly believes he is of superior skill to this man because this man is a slave and he's not. And I thought that was such a good juxtaposition.
Again, though, like we're back to the influences on its sleeve thing. I think Kirk Douglas's Spartacus kind of did this better a little bit, of like all of the things we're talking about, of the way like the emphasis on like you're going to have to fight somebody, you know, and possibly kill them, the flippantness of the big scene, or one of the big scenes in the Kubrick Spartacus, where the guy comes for just this exhibition match and then he's like, oh, just have them kill each other. And then Peter Ustinov's Batiatus tries to kind of talk him out of it. And then, but eventually when enough money is thrown down the line, he's like, all right, fine. Yeah, they're going to fight to the death. And then that's the thing that breaks and incites Kirk Douglas's rebellion. And I just kind of think like, I feel like a lot of these things that we suspect are kind of more interesting or deeper, I think are maybe just coming from somewhere else, but maybe that's just me. And I think also, to Liv's point though, season 1 was a lot more upfront about that kind of thing. There was a lot more conversations about we might have to kill each other in the arena. And this is also, I think, kind of hindered in that because we know all of these main characters are going to be alive come season 1. So we can't have Barca fight Crixus or Oenomaus fight whoever, right?
Yeah.
Gannicus is the one that's like, oh, like, I really thought Crixus was going to kill Gannicus at the end, but
I kind of did too.
Well, but like, and to your point earlier, Colin, like, I think, and I wonder if this is just my own, you know, opinion on it coming through, but I do think that whether this was intentional or not on their part, I do think that it's actually can be very beneficial to intentionally market a show like this as gratuitous violence, as just another gladiator killing everyone show, and then have it be more. Because if you market it as a show about the horrors of enslavement and the realities of that, like I mean, one, not a lot of people are going to watch it, like just from a capitalism standpoint. But I also think, like, I'm just thinking about this in the way that I have sometimes marketed my own episodes, where I want to reach a certain type of person. So I'm not going to lead with the fact that I'm going to blow up the idea of Atlantis, for example. Like, I'm going to lead with the fact that Atlantis is a cool and interesting thing we all want to learn about, right? And then I'm going to, introduce the idea that actually it's nothing at all and it's all super problematic and dangerous. Like, so I think that, like, and again, like, I don't know if I'm giving them way too much credit for this, but I do think that it is beneficial to market a show like this, get a bunch of like angry white guys who want to see that, and then throw at them the horrors of what actual ancient Rome is like, right? Like, we all know the type of people who are interested in ancient Rome beyond the nerds like us. Like, they want the horrors and the dark, and they want that violence. And so I think, like, then making them watch something where they're reminded that these were real people living horrific lives, like, can actually make an impact in a way that, yeah, like, if you lead it as, something else, is not going to do it.
I really like that idea, Liv. And what we talked about Alexandra, is like, I've spent some time combing through the reviews of the series in season 1, and boy, did they nail the audience. Like, they definitely marketed it to exactly who you were talking about. But I think, unfortunately, the takeaway was the 10 for 10s are like, this is great.
I wonder if it's like going to fall victim to the Fight Club thing, where
Yep.
the Fight Club's biggest fans are the people that Fight Club is actually satirizing and mocking, but they sort of just take it at face value, and they're like sick, guys fighting each other.
Well, on that front, I do have a 6 out of 10 star review for the prequel season that I wanted to share real quick.
Yes.
So 6 out of 10 stars, but this one is not as good as the first. The fight scenes are perfunctory. Even the sex scenes are not as hot. And worse, storylines are all rehashed from the first season. That's just the title. I could keep going, but like...
Yeah.
I mean...
Eli, did you write that?
Back in 2011, because I went to like back when it first came out.
It's so funny.
But like, that's what so much of like the original reviews are, right? Like, oh, the fight scenes are so cool, and it's almost like watching softcore porn on Stars. And I'm just like,
I mean, yeah,
I don't think you're getting it what I'm getting.
It was, I think, very much like trying to tap in. It was trying to like pick up the torch that 300 left, and like very explicitly, like the first scene of the first season is basically 300. They're in like the Spirit Halloween costume versions of what they have in 300, and like everything is a little bit like not quite as polished, not quite as the production quality isn't quite as refined as in that movie, but it's very much like trying to do that same thing. And so I don't know.
But I think at the same time, like they had to have had enough historical knowledge to know that, like, even if they were trying to pick up where 300 left off, they were still trying to, by nature, also combat what 300 did wrong. Because 300 likes to pretend that all of Sparta wasn't, populated by enslaved people.
Hey. We speak of that. I'll come back to me in a moment. I have a quote from Zack Snyder about his thoughts on his own film 300.
Jesus, horrifying.
I'm sure I'm gonna love this.
But yeah, like I think that, like, even if they're trying to pick up on 300, like, they are still being like, we're still doing a show about enslaved people. Like, so I still think even in that case, they're still doing better. I mean, considerably better work. Like, in terms of countless things, 300's a mess. But like, I don't know, and maybe I admittedly love this show. Like, I for all its problematic natures, like, I won't pretend that I'm not like a little bit biased by my enjoyment of it. But I do think that it's interesting in that respect, and I hope we're going to talk about the gays too, because you mentioned it like off mic earlier.
Yes,
Christy.
This was leading me into Christy, if you had,
I do have it. I found the quote. So from Zack Snyder, truly, the filmmaker added, "As we go forward, I would love to just kind of stress, look, 300 in some ways is one of the gayest movies ever made. It is incredibly male-centric, male-obsessed. You really feel strong male energy from that movie, even though Gorgo is an incredibly strong female character." Maybe that was just me doing the research and understanding Spartan culture, that energy was in there. It was important to make sure there was a visceral sexuality to the way the men actually interacted, regardless of whether you acknowledge it. It's there.
I'm so thrilled to hear that exists. Like, I would have never clocked him for saying that. I did a series on Sparta last year, and I wish that I had like had that because, like, I mean, yeah, he's right. But
He's right.
Most guys who love that movie do not see that.
My best experience of watching 300 was I was still undergraduate, and I was really good friends with guys in the Sigma Chi house. So they had a fraternity movie night, and it was 300, and that was the way to experience that movie.
It's like watching it in the Ludus.
It was exactly watching it in the Ludus.
No,
I mean,
thank
this
you.
is like what I find so delightfully funny and ironic about like macho bro culture is like how it so quickly becomes like so homoerotic. Like when you just dial up the macho, it just basically becomes like gay erotica. And this show, at least to its credit, is, well, actually, I'm not sure. Well, let me rewind. I was going to ask, I asked before we started recording, like, in the sense of like, who is the gaze for in this show? Like, who is, right, the viewer? Because pretty much every character in the show, maybe excepting Badiatus, is a sort of object of desire in some way, for sure. We are looking at them in a very sort of sexualized tint. The camera is sort of leering over everybody. Maybe that's the wrong word, but it's
leering feels appropriate.
Seems like the right word.
Yeah.
Salivating, we might say, over everyone and everything. Even like the background extras, there will just be like naked people and sex and stuff going on in the stands.
And
the boobs
heaving
in the stands.
bosoms.
Yeah. The volume of boobs in the stands.
Yes. Lots of boobs. I think we talked with last time a little bit about this, on that, like, some of this gaze with like having so many shirtless men absolutely ripped, that like that is usually coded toward a female gaze, but I think it's also there for the masculine gaze as like a self-insert kind of thing, like the gym bros.
It's aspirational.
It is aspirational, right?
Yeah.
It's
Timaeus
the cover
is
of
very
Men's
realistic.
Health. It's like
The running joke of people getting really into bodybuilding and weightlifting, expecting they're going to attract a lot of chicks, but really it attracts a lot of other dudes admiring their gains.
Yeah. And what, like, the phrase "no homo," right? Like that became a literal phrase.
That's a very, I feel like, when was the peak of that? I want to say that phrase. That
was just a few years ago, but
Was it?
I feel like
Christy,
I haven't heard it in a
That was
while.
a good over
that
a
was
decade ago.
a good 10
really
to 12
think
years
we all
ago.
just
Am I
got
that
old.
old?
Yes,
Yes,
I think
Christy.
we all just got old. No,
I was gonna say, I feel like I haven't heard it in a while.
yeah, I feel
What
like that
media brought it to light? There was like a TV show that like specifically used
I don't know
it.
if they're explicit about it, but Friends really jumps to mind of like, if you want to talk about like late 90s, early Aughts gay panic, Friends is like
Yes.
right up there.
How I Met Your
Yes.
Mother is.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
ironically.
Yeah.
To the Spartacus of this, though, like, I do want to say, I think that the homoerotic nature of this show is very intentional, like, very on purpose. I think that I feel like the gaze is kind of for everyone in an interesting way, and I think that they like went with that. I don't have that much insightful stuff to say, except that there are more cocks than most shows that would normally have that many boobs, and I think that that's great equal representation. Like, I think that alone is like evidence that they were not, I think that they were aware of what they were doing, like they were making it like, nah, this is not just for the straight guys at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I think it's a very equal opportunity kind of gaze. Or
Absolutely.
They still code it as heteronormative because, like, I remember from season 1 when Ilithea is going to pick the gladiator she's going to sponsor, right? It's her gaze specifically to like have all the men remove their sublaria. Is that right? Their loincloths.
I call them
will.
diapers.
Yeah,
diapers.
that thing. And so it's like her being like, oh, him. But it's like, but we're all staring at a lineup of penises now. It's great.
It's very rare in, I don't even want to say Hollywood because I don't know how American this was, because I know it's like pretty Australian. But like it's very rare, and that alone to me feels like a weird win. Like it's just, for every boob there's, I mean, I would say it's probably like 1 to 2. And maybe that's fair because boobs come in pairs. You know? Okay.
Just like real life. Like, I
Completely agree.
But I think that it's just so shockingly abnormal comparatively that it's just like, oh, this is nice.
I'm just thinking, like, hey, if we're counting individual boobs, then that seems right.
Exactly.
A 1-to-2 ratio is appropriate.
What is it? Honest Trailers does a little side series called By the Numbers. I need them to go through the Spartacus series now and by the numbers. Figure out the number of boobs versus cocks that are shown in.
I feel like that's like a joke in what is it, Knocked Up, where the guys in Seth Rogen's house are like creating a master database of like every time you can see nudity in a film, and then somebody is like lists like 5 other sites that already do that.
Yeah.
I bet this archive exists somewhere.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure it was someone we went to high school with.
Yeah. Speaking of high school, I think there's been a number of we all just got a little bit old references in here. That Knocked Up was the next one. So thank you. I just had a horrible realization of how old that movie is.
Yes.
It's about to turn. It's going to be able to drink, I think, in the United States pretty soon.
No, that's
probably already in Montreal.
Oh gosh. So the other character I wanted to talk about and then bring that back into like how this story felt more like about a team dynamic, like a professional team dynamic, was the arrival of Titus Batiatus, the father. And I know that he was very unlikable in some respects, but it's like, but he's unlikable through the eyes of his son for the most part.
Yeah.
So like, does that mean I do like him? And in terms of his relationship to the ludus and to the actual gladiators, to me, it was like, that was a really interesting look at the transition between professional coaches and like their approaches to like handling players. And if you think about,
he feels like a guy who'd be like, it's all about the fundamentals. We got to like, and we have to have integrity when we did these things.
Yeah. But like, that's his son though, right? Like he wants to turn this into a business to rise his own status. So like his dad feels like a coach who like wants his players to succeed. Mm-hmm. And Quintus feels like a team manager who is just making the moves to make the money, right? Like, and so I thought that was really interesting. And the other aspect of this was Asher's storyline and how like he's pretty hateable in season 1. And like, I'm surprised they like jacked that up even more for this season. But you also saw in like how unfair of a position he had been put in, and that like the mark was forced upon him for doing a task as a slave he was demanded to do. And like he even realizes like, I'm not being able to take the oath. This doesn't feel right. It still happens to him. And he is ostracized, even though he's now supposed to be part of the Brotherhood. And I thought that was another good dynamic. Like I compared it to like getting your I don't know. I went to a school where I had a letterman's jacket. So like I got my letter my freshman year. That was really cool playing soccer. But like I've been in enough soccer politics to be like, oh, that's the coach's kid. Should they really be on the team? Should they really get the letter and things like that? And it gave me so much team vibes that is slightly culty, a lot of hazing, but like you still have such a strong sense of camaraderie with the people you're with, even though you hate them half the time, like sometimes.
Yeah. Trauma bonding.
It is trauma bonding.
Yeah.
So I liked it for those changes. And I thought I liked Quintus because he was kind of this representation of, this ideal of this is what we really play the games for. The blood and sand and which is kind of what the players have bought into, right?
Yeah. Well, and Titus wants to sit in the stands, right? He wants to like sit with the crowd and like cheer along with everybody else. And he's like, he has the love of the game, I guess. And like Quintus has the love of the money. So that tracks.
Yeah. So I thought that was a good tradition.
It's all about sitting in the Polvinus for Quintus.
Yeah,
right?
it is.
So I liked that his dad showed up. Like I said, it's like, I already presumed daddy issues, but I actually liked that dad showed up because it showed kind of the different relationship I just also liked that from the slave perspective too, is like how drastically can your life change just in a change of paterfamilias, right? Like we can't.
Folks were going to be sent to the mines,
Yeah.
right? If they didn't do well enough, and he's like, no, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's horrifying as always.
Now, do we want to say anything about Vettius and Tullius, the bad D-bads of
I don't understand how Tullius wielded so much power.
money? I'm just presuming money if he's building an entire arena for the...
He's like a mobster? Like, what is it? What is he?
Because, he wasn't a magistrate, right? Because they had the magistrate there.
Maybe a tradesman? Because, like, the excuse they end up saying is, like, he had to leave for business in Antioch. I'm assuming, like, just a really wealthy dude.
Yeah, owns a bunch of butcher. I guess he's just organized crime or something. Yeah,
I could see that.
With my very minimal to non-existent knowledge of Rome, I always just assumed he was super rich, just all money.
He's got money. Yeah. He wants Gannicus. He wants to kill Gannicus, but he wants Gannicus.
Yeah.
You know what? He just wanted Gannicus.
Everybody wanted
Gannicus, and so much is resolved.
Christy, tell us how you really feel.
You know what? I'm on board with Liv over here. It's like, this is the Gannicus season, and I am here for it. So.
100%. 100%.
It's impossible not to love Gannicus.
Yeah.
Also, the only likable character from season 1, Enemeus, even more likable this season.
Oh, is he ever?
I do love him. He's so good.
I love that he's our little connection to 300 too.
Yes.
Peter Mensa. I mean, I think, again, not by accident.
Oh no, I was going to say I have a favorite moment when we're ready.
Oh yeah, take it away.
I really enjoyed the Primus fight where they're in the Circle of Fire, and I think my favorite part is when Gannicus wins and he like spins around with the spearhead and shoves it in that guy's mouth, and it just like tears his jaw apart. That was great.
The guy with the gross teeth. Christy just made
you know what? I can put up with all the violence sometimes, but it's like I will cringe in reaction every time.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I like definitely squirm and cringe, but I was like, damn, that was cool.
The last fight was really well done, actually. Like, I enjoyed that as much as I could.
I think my favorite scene, there's one episode in like 3 or 4 where there's a running sort of B plot about how Crixus has a hard time against guys with spears. And then Gannicus basically like Gaul shames him, where he's like, what's your problem? You never fight any guys with spears? I thought you were a Gaul. And he's like, the spear is unknown to me. And then we get a little bit of backstory about Crixus's. He was, I guess, enslaved by the Averni and sold to the Romans. But I just like the scene where he goes, the spear is unknown to me. And then Gannicus kind of basically like calls out his Gaulishness.
I was just going to say Gaia. Gaia was so good. I enjoyed her so much the entire time. So that's all I got.
Yeah, I have trouble picking from just like any host of, just because this was like the first thing I watched in the whole realm of Spartacus. And so I mostly love the like ridiculous inside jokes that I've developed about this show, which I also realized I didn't get a chance to talk about. How I learned everything I know about gladiators is from this show, for good or bad, except actually Alexander was on my show too, so she taught me a lot of like real stuff. But my favorite type of gladiator has become the retiarius, purely because I call them Mr. Nets, and I find great joy in talking about Mr. Nets and curls and like basically just like the dumb stuff I've established about this show. But I think my favorite moment is the first episode where Gannicus is just singing drunk off the edge of a cliff, and I'm pretty sure his song has the line "My cock rages on," which is pretty great. It's very Gannicus.
Yes.
Yep.
It's very Celine Dion.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know if you talked about this, but I was going to mention, like, were we going to address the fact that Batiatus' house is on the top of Mount Doom, and that there's this like 1,000-foot cliff next to it? Like, where is this guy's house?
Just take that in stride.
And then at some
Game
point,
of
when
Thrones come after this, were they looking at that and being like,
it's about a year later, I think, a year or 2 later,
because the pissing off the side of it in season 1.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, there's one point where it's when they like kind of waylay the rich guy who's visiting to like sponsor the Primus, and then Adiata says like, "Oh, my house is not far from here," and I'm like, "No, it's not. It's on the top of the goddamn mountain."
Too. I was like, "What do you mean not far from here?"
You have to hike up a mountain to get to this thing, and then it's 1,000-foot cliff, and they just have no. There's not even a net, right? They just have this. Well, I'm sure it's there, though, in the first season, so they could 300 Spartan kick people off the edge of it.
Yep. I do have one good final question for us, since this is going to kind of eventually follow up Xena Warrior Princess as well. So, of course, Lucy Lawless is in this as Lucretia. Lovely. But apparently, because there had been talks about a Xena reboot, and they kind of got waylaid because Lucy Lawless came on and did season 1, and like the ending kind of left it up to like whether or not she'd continue to be part of the series. And she's like, "Oh, I'm loving this." So she will get to continue to be part of the series.
Yeah. She's not gone.
What do we think? What do we wish for? Are we glad she continues with Spartacus, or do we kind of wish...
Just really quick, the Lucy Lawless because you reminded me, because we just recorded our episode on Xena, and we were talking about like Xena's very camp, and this is kind of also very camp in a different way. But for some reason, I'm way more on board with Xena's flavor of camp than this. And part of my struggle with the show was trying to reconcile that. And then at the end of the day, it might just be like, you know what, it's not for you, and that's cool.
I feel like it's 90s camp versus more recent camp. Like it's just the nature of like 90s feels so far removed, and the technology is so far removed that like it does definitely reach like a different type of camp. You know, it feels more obviously camp versus, versus Spartacus.
Give this another decade. I'm pretty sure it'll hit those levels of camp.
Talking about Xena made me think of this, but when I was watching the Rings of Power, there's a high volume of Spartacus actors that are in that show, and I just ended up spending like a great amount of time. Like there's one scene where there's just like a random guy on a ship who I think he says 2 words, and I was like, "That's Barca!" And I think it just like says too much about like how often I've watched this show. But like, yeah, I mean, not remotely related, but they're just an FYI. There's a great number because of filming in New Zealand. Just like the nature of the actors.
I just had another thought too. It's like Gannicus survives, and if he doesn't show up in the later seasons, I don't know if he does or not. They are rebooting Spartacus with the House of Asher, because give that more story.
Wait, is that what it is?
Yeah, it's going to be the House of Asher.
Oh, I don't want that.
Why is it not the House of Gannicus, my apiary man?
Well, I mean, Gannicus does not. I mean, I don't know what spoilers you do or do not want.
I just haven't seen it yet, so like if he shows up, I wouldn't be surprised. I could see that being very intentional from the prequel. So, but it's like, man, if he didn't show up, why is this reboot not about him?
Yeah, that's a bummer. I hadn't heard that yet. I just knew it was like a thing that was hopefully happening, but I mean, I still have faith.
Are they giving that man a redemption arc? No.
None.
No, I don't think that that's possible. Because also, like, I'm pretty sure he continues to be awful in future seasons, if I recall.
I don't see it improving at all.
No. I think the only improvement would be like if he wasn't there.
Yeah.
Like, so, yeah. But I do believe
dead.
he is there. I think maybe not. Again, I've seen the other 2 seasons one time.
Okay.
And I've seen the Gannicus and Andy Whitfield seasons multiple times.
Okay. All right.
I'm reading a press release about this. Let's see. The official description is: the series poses the question, what if Asher hadn't died on Mount Vesuvius at the end of Spartacus?
No one's asking that question.
Yeah, what?
Literally no one is asking that question.
Talk about we talk about prequels that didn't need to exist, reboots that did not need to exist.
I would take a regular, like I was interested in the reboot generally, but now I am less so, certainly. Why Asher?
Because we know, like, historically, we know that Crixus, Oenomaus, and Spartacus die. So, like, what options are you left with? Lucretia? Let's just go with Lucretia. I'm sure she probably dies by the end, too, and I'm just going to be mad all around.
I mean, Lucretia is like, I'll just say that she's the continues to remain wonderful in future seasons.
Yay.
They also, because they have Julius Caesar in the next seasons.
Yes.
And he does look like an Australian surfer in a deeply enjoyable way.
I'm so excited now.
You know what? I like what New Zealanders and Australians do.
Yeah. He's surfer Julius Caesar, and it's incredibly funny. Also, the only other thing I remember is that Glaber becomes hot. And so like I again with my friends, we do just talk about like just hot Glaber.
Speaking of crossovers, I cannot unsee because he's Haldir in Lord of the Rings, and he can't be on screen for more than a second.
I know. I can't.
The moment I realized that, because like I think I realized mid episode, I was like in the midst of watching Glaber, and then I was like, holy shit, that's Haldir, and it just like changes everything.
It really does, and it makes me feel so uncomfortable, and I can't like pinpoint why.
No, I agree completely. It is I don't know what's happening.
Am I attracted to Glaber?
Yeah, it's like no.
Or like, am I attracted to Haldir? I don't know. I'm thrilled we got to have so many Lord of the Rings references.
Yes.
Is the rule like if you shoot in New Zealand, you must use these New Zealand actors? Is that just the rule?
Well, as the resident Canadian, I'm just going to tell you it's simply volume.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
sure.
There's only so many, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, I feel like it's fairly applicable to the UK too. Like for a long time before Harry Potter became what it is now, and by that I mean the author, like I would play a game with everything of just like count the Harry Potter actors like in various movies.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But yeah, no, I mean, and New Zealand is so much population wise, I imagine I don't know if it's smaller than Canada. We have a weirdly small population, but like, yeah, I feel like everyone's just kind of in everything. I recently talked to someone who made a joke about like, because they heard I was Canadian, and I'm like, oh, you should like say hi to this guy from Letterkenny. And I was like, I should joke about like call back about how Canada's not that small, but I do know someone who's on Letterkenny. So it's like, I can't even defend myself. Like we are that small. Yeah, I think that's all it is.
I do have numbers. So whereas Canada has a population of about 38 and a quarter, New Zealand is coming in at a tight 5 million.
Oh, babies! Yeah,
dang,
yeah, wow.
That's why everyone's in.
There are cities in the U.S. that have more people in
the entirety of New Zealand.
Yeah,
I know. I was about to ask, like, what state is that equivalent with? Colin, help me out here.
Well, like California is definitely bigger than Canada population-wise, so it's not. It's not hard to have the.
California is its own country.
Like 40 million people.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Let's see. 5 million people. That would make it about Alabama has about 5 million people.
Okay. All right.
Canada isn't even a country or have a city with 5 million.
Yeah.
So.
Louisiana just under that with about 4.6.
Okay. All right. So enough to be a fun little party group if you're Louisiana. There you go. A fun but problematic party group. There we go.
Yeah.
Okay. Should we call it there?
I think so.
Yeah. Okay. Liv, thank you so much for joining us. If listeners want to hear or read or see more from you, where can they do that?
What a great question. I never have a good answer. Everywhere. My podcast is called Let's Talk About Myths, Baby, and is available wherever. The volume of episodes now rivals the population of New Zealand. So you have lots. That's not true, but it's over 500. So like fractionally, it's pretty interesting. There's a lot to catch up on. And yeah, my books are also available wherever you buy books. So, and just like everything's Myths, Baby, if you want to find me places.
Excellent. All right. Well, as always, listeners, you can find us wherever you stream your podcasts. You can follow us on social media at Movies We Dig and find us on movieswedig.com. And we will be back next episode to talk about more Spartacus.
More Spartacus.
All right. Glory. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.